Well, good morning, everybody. This is Ron Coughlin from the What's Your Story podcast and broadcast on YouTube. This podcast is brought to you over Spotify podcasts as well as Google Podcasts and Public Radio USA. Well, I have a really interesting and great guest today, and this guest I've known for quite a while. Actually, we've done some work together on a number of different occasions. And he is one of those marketers that I've always looked up to and followed, and I'm really glad to have him here today. His name's David Kincaid. And David Kincaid, just so you know who he is, there he is smiling on the camera there.
Hi,
He was the guy that I met when I was VP of Marketing at Palladium, launched that amazing brand that's kind of fell away. But at the time, David was the Chief Marketing Officer of VP Marketing at Labatt Breweries, and then we did a lot of different programs together to kind of partner with young people and their attitudes and the brand and the entertainment product that we had at Palladium. And then also, he went on to be Chief Marketing Officer at Interbrew, and from there was helped start Core Entertainment, was president there. He left all that and started his own firm about 10 years ago called Level 5. And Level 5 I hired, of all things. So I hired them when I was the director of marketing at Toronto Pearson International Airport. We did a kind of consumer look at the passengers and segmented our passengers, and from there we extended that into a brand strategy. And I really thought that they did a great job at that time. So I've recommended them to people. I've recommended students to contact David's firm if they're looking to try and get into something, and he always asks them really great, insightful questions. So David, welcome, and thank you for joining us today. I hope I didn't miss anything, and maybe you can fill in any gaps that I've missed here.
No, I think you hit the high spots. So, but the only thing, and it goes to show how our memories lapse very quickly, Ron. So Level 5's now been around 20 years.
Oh, come on.
So we've been able to survive as a startup business for 20 years. So yeah.
Wow. Seems like 10 years, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I guess
sometimes it seems like 50.
So it's been quite a while. So David, why don't you tell us a little bit about Level 5 and what you do and your brand and what you've tried to accomplish with this organization and what you've had to do recently. Obviously, business has changed quite a bit. Everybody is reacting these uncertain times during this pandemic. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, Level 5 is a full-service management consulting firm. So we compete against the likes of the McKinseys and Bains and Deloittes with a real focus of growing the asset value of your brand. So we look at the business and the business system of a brand. So when we say brand, we're not talking about marketing. We're actually talking about the asset that is your brand. So we look at that business and we apply a very simple logic to it that is my definition of a brand, and was actually the title of the first book that I wrote, which was The Value of a Promise Consistently Kept. That actually, for me, after my 40 years of doing this now, really summed up what I saw as a good definition of a brand. And where we see a lot of organizations in today's world needing a lot of help is maybe relooking their promise to the market, and we'll talk about this. But then anytime you shift your promise, you have to recognize, if you know that it's not just how you market it, you could be very effective in delivering the promise into the market, but if your business system is not set up to be able to deliver and exceed customer expectations regularly, consistently, you can do the greatest marketing of the promise, but if you don't deliver it, the value goes down. So that's how the equation works. So that's what we do, and great insights, good strategy in terms of understanding what that unique selling proposition is that only you can create sustainable, profitable growth through, and then how you align your business system, how you transform your business system to be able to deliver on all of that. So that's the niche that we've carved out. I started it as the lore goes on my kitchen table by myself, which is true. And we're now about 30 people. I've worked for over 350 brands around the world, creating them, evolving them, fixing them, maintaining their strength, depending on what the different needs are. But yeah, that's level 5. And the only other thing I would say is when I started the company, I actually said to my wife that, look, I'm actually not out to start a company or start a business. It's actually not all that hard to start a business. It's really, go to the business registration office, get your license there, you've started a business. I wanted to not start a business, I wanted to see if I could create a culture. And that is a tough thing to create, to manage, because you actually, aside from setting an inspiring vision and the values and the behaviors you want people to use and helping deliver on that vision, you have no control really of how the culture evolves. And you and I experienced that working at the airport in Toronto.
Yes.
And under your leadership, we went from the Greater Toronto Airport Authority to Pearson International, but the whole customer experience and the cultural shift that the organization, 30,000 people, had to understand that shift. And that's a huge management challenge, especially in today's culturally sensitive time.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right there. I mean, the change was unbelievable. They'd never thought of what marketing or commercial development was and how that worked. And everybody felt they had a piece of that. And so there was internal challenges from all the mistrust and other things that went with that. And culturally, it was a big shift, and without much explanation throughout the ranks on how that should all work. And so what happened was people fought back, and it was a tough thing to do. So, and everyone was fighting for that piece of the pie to own it, and it was really
well, exactly. And that's why I say, the value of a promise consistently kept. It's an easy thing to say and to understand the logic of it. It's in business, it's a very difficult thing. And we all watched organizations struggle with doing that and then injecting the right culture that helps them consistently keep that promise. Easy to say, hard to do.
Yeah, so I'm glad you touched on this word culture, because most organizations have been trucking along pretty good. The economy's been awesome. Got this little inkling that there might be this virus that was out there. And with that, March 1st comes along, and maybe we're going to be in trouble here. We don't know. And everybody was doubting. And then 2 weeks later, everything shut down. And so massive change, massive uncertainty, massive upheaval in the markets, massive upheaval in organizations and how they work daily. Giving trust back to their employees, being able to say, go home, work from home. Are you going to work or are you not going to work, right? So are you going to go grocery shopping or renovate your house? Well, you should be working on our business. So, but ironically enough, people generally are good people. And what happened? People are working from home and things are changing, right? So I want, you guys have been doing a lot of work at Level 5. You partner with a guest we had on yesterday, Shane Skillen from Hot Spec Research, and do some great research on, figuring out and predicting what this whole thing's going to be about and helping companies evolving through this change and other things. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what you've been up to since this situation started, how you've been helping others, and what Level 5 has done to change during this whole pandemic and what's been going on.
Yes, well, thanks, and I appreciate the opportunity today. I think the interesting thing, as a backdrop, I don't think any of us have ever experienced, at least in my 61 years, something that is as truly global and all-reaching, not far-reaching, but all-reaching as what we've gone through. This isn't an economic or a financial crisis. This is bigger. And the financial implications the social implications, you know, the health and healthcare implications. This is so big that it affects everybody.
Yeah.
And I don't think, you know, for organizations that have been successful in the past, part of the reason is they did figure out what that promise was that they could create advantage over. Boom, in comes this meteor, blows it all up, and you're left stepping back and saying, really, what is the marketplace now looking for? And, you know, I've made a couple of comments lately that who would have thought, even 3 months ago, that some primary attributes that you would be looking for in a grocery store were safety, health, precaution, cleanliness. You know, you kind of expected that, I guess, in the past, but now it's a decision maker. I want to go somewhere where my food chain is protected and I am protected. Yeah, nice that they've got all kinds of new private label variety and stuff like that. That was important 3 months ago. Boom, my priorities have shifted. Now, I do believe that some of these priorities are going to, you know, over time move back to where we've come from, but they won't all move back there. And beyond the motivations for behavior, people's behaviors around, even when it does return, are still going to be affected by what we've gone through.
Yeah.
So what we at level 5, as I said, when we go out to try to understand what is that promise that you can make in the market, we've been working, you mentioned Shane and Hot Specs. We've been working with Shane. I've been working with Shane for 20 years, and we created this tool that actually went in and really understood the emotional side of the consumer. And when I say the consumer, Ron, that could be a B2C consumer or a B2B consumer, a blue chip consumer or a startup consumer. There's a common denominator here. They're a consumer. And the role that emotion plays in driving behavior. But to do that, what we discovered was humans actually have a very difficult time articulating emotion. So what this tool does is actually gives them an ability to increase their language, their way to describe how they feel about a certain thing, which is part of culture, right? How you emotionally engage or attach. And what the tool is able to do through a whole range of regression and statistical analysis, we actually put values to these emotions. So I know that if these are the driving emotions in this category, and I know that you are delivering on those at a certain level, I can predict how successful you'll be in the market as a result of that. Well, what we've gone through and what we've invested in lately with Shane's team is a sentiment tracker to show where those emotions might have shifted to in general, not about any one sector or brand or product area, but just in general. And the one thing in high-level summary is brands for the last 15, 20 years, as you commented on, have really been driven by a whole range of emotions that have a tendency to cluster in areas that I would call inspiration, interesting, fun. So you look at an Apple brand or you look at an Amazon brand. These are brands that you enjoy engaging with. Apple in its design, the wondrousness of its design. Well, it's inspiring, it's interesting. The phone is actually kind of the same device as Samsung or anybody else, but it's the way they position the brand. So those emotions in that part of what we call a brand map have shifted to actually the other side of the map, which are around emotions having to do with knowledge, understanding, familiarity, nurturing. So I'm looking for things. I don't need to be wowed. I need to be taken care of. And the ultimate, as a result of that, is what you accurately said. It's about building trust. Build my trust back that you are looking after myself and my family. That has been an amazing shift to watch in just like that. We've never seen it happen so quickly. Now, we think that over time it'll start to shift back a little bit, but some of those important drivers and the changes that we've seen, we believe are going to maintain themselves. So your question of what's level 5 doing is we're actually now going one level down and saying, okay, in your sector, with your business, how has that shift affected your marketplace? And what do you need to do to evolve or shift or change? Notice I didn't say pivot. If I hear pivot one more time, I'm going to pull my hair out.
Over to this
But what do you need to do to evolve your brand's promise? And as a result, what do you need to do to change your business system to keep that promise? It has overwhelming change requirements. And we think that those organizations that are leaders in understanding that, they get that first mover advantage. And we love working with leaders. We love working with those that want that knowledge and that understanding, and to some degree that predictability, looking out over the next 5 years.
Sure. So you talk about leaders, right? So you're a CEO and you had to go through all this change very quickly. What did you do at level 5? Did you send people home? Are they working from home? How are you operating in today? And then what are you going to do over the next 3 to 6 months? Do you have any clue, or is it uncertain? Do you have a plan? What have you done to to really protect your business assets, your organization? Because obviously, I know in my company, March 1st, my clients, 3 of them called me and said, stop everything. Turn the tap off. I don't want anything.
Wow.
And I'm like, really? Okay. And all I could do was say, I'm going to continue on. I'm going to continue on doing what I was doing, and I'm not going to charge you. Well, guess what happened? Very quickly thereafter, in May, I got the call. Okay, we want to turn the tap on. Let's go. And bigger than ever. So, I really think this has happened to a lot of companies. So what happened with you guys? Like, what happened?
Well, I guess, we are a services firm, professional services firm.
Yeah.
So we don't have a plant with that's chunking out something. And so our asset base is people.
Yeah.
So in hindsight, the ability to pivot.
You almost said it, yeah.
I almost did. The ability to shift our approach to our business model was actually somewhat, I'd say, rather comparatively easier than other organizations. We are used to working remotely. Our clients are all across North America, so we're used to working from elsewhere. Yes, we've got an office, and yes, it's a wonderful place to collaborate and, as a central destination or meeting point, but we're used to working remotely. And I've been very, very proud of the organization and all the staff, because yes, we shut down immediately. Our number one imperative was the safety and health of our family, our teammates, right? So the ability to, on day one, move to more virtual relationships seemed quite daunting, but it became very easy. So I'd say we probably, from a technology use standpoint, ramped up very quickly around, the Zooms, the MS Teams of the world. And what we discovered was that we can still do what we do this way. It will never have the intimacy and the energy of all of us being in a room together. But it's not like we're throwing everything out and starting all over. We just replaced it through the technology. So we're doing just fine. We actually ran a workshop the other day with over 20 participants.
With your staff or employees? Staff, right?
Well, no, with a client.
Okay.
So the clients are getting comfortable as well because they're having to work remotely within their own job. So when it comes time to continue on with the work that we were doing with them, shifting to this has not really been a big problem. So again, I've been very proud of how our organization, everybody has made that move and made it somewhat seamlessly. We meet once a week as a total organization. We go over the status, how are we doing, how are people feeling, and then we actually have some fun with it. We play some online games together. It's actually kind of fun. So I would say all in all, that shift has worked out quite well. I think it's also maybe taught us some things about going forward, how we might do things differently and more efficiently. Like, do we really need to send 4 or 5 people out to Vancouver for that meeting?
Yeah.
So
save a little money on your gas bill this month too, driving
possibly, yeah, exactly. So I mean, we're learning, and I think that's an important message I'd like to leave your viewers with is, you can look at this situation, regardless again of what sector you're in, as the glass half full or the glass half empty. And I do believe that leadership starts with perspective, and diversity, the topic of the day, actually breeds perspective. So getting everybody involved so that we can get that level of perspective in place where it allows us to go forward in a new and a different way. So glass half full is the way we're looking at the world. What can we learn? What can we do different? What can we do better? What do we give up? There's a whole range of things that, the travel that I just talked about, even the people in the office, a recent poll that we just did, about 30% of the employees want to come back. They want to be in the office because they want that social energy that I talked about. But the other 70, I'm okay doing it this way.
I'm fine here.
So I think, how we work, where we work, who we work with, we're trying to take all the learning from the situation that we're in right now and look at applying it going forward.
Well, you said some very interesting things. So one of the things I noticed is that you're starting to play with your people, really kind of lightening things up, making this fun, not necessarily, oh, we have to be at home, we can't be together. And that speaks a lot to your leadership and also to the values and culture of your organization, which is a nice thing.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something that other companies could definitely, live by and think about. Now, is anybody struggling in your organization through this? Is there anybody that's reached out and said, I'm really not doing very well from?
We haven't had any individual or a couple of folks say, wow, I'm really struggling. Everybody has, like you said, when we got on the call, ups and down days. I'll be honest with you, to be totally transparent, if there's anybody that may have struggled the most with what we're going through, it's me.
Okay. Tell us about that.
Well, the role that I play is largely a business development role.
Yeah.
So Ian Medell, our president, YU, our operations head, the partners, they are busy maintaining the relationships and doing great work with our clients in this new model and running the company. So they have things so wonderfully under control, and I completely support everything that they're doing. So it's kind of leaves me in a situation where business development, especially in a senior high-level professional services firm like we are. I mean, our clients are usually C-suite or board level members. So it's hard, it's just different having that intimate kind of relationship where you can understand their needs, because often understanding it doesn't come from the words out of their mouth. You can read the body language. You can when they're there with you, you know, that they let their guard down a little bit, and you really understand what's keeping them up at night. And that's my job, is to go out and find those people and nurture those relationships. So I'm finding it's not quite the same over a computer screen. I'm trying my best, but also, I mean, I'm on that unfortunate past generation where technology wasn't. I joke, I teach an MBA class at Queen's University, and I joke with the students, but now it's no longer a joke. I say, when I was here at Queen's as a student, there was no such thing as a computer.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a big Fortran thing in a basement somewhere, or with punch cards. But so, you know,
yeah, and you would have to go to the library and use the Dewey Decimal System.
Exactly, with your pencil. Yeah. So adapting and adopting are two things that I'm really trying to do. It's just not in my DNA. So I'm struggling with trying to keep up with everybody on the technology front, so that I can keep up with the clients and the prospects on these business development things. So that can be a little draining at times, let's put it that way.
Yeah, so maybe you could leave our guests who are viewing us today with one kind of piece of advice. So if you had a crystal ball, and that crystal ball kind of said, all right, a year from now, we've gone through the various stages, we've opened up, we found a vaccine, what kind of advice would you give leaders right now to prepare for that and make this a really easy journey, or a better journey, and one where they can, you know, leave this journey with a profitable plan going into the future?
Well, I would suggest the marketplace. And I'm not talking the stock market. I'm talking about the market, the global marketplace that we all play in, is all driven by these funny creatures called consumers or customers. And the one thing I think everybody would agree to is that as a result of what we've gone through, that all affecting change that we've gone through, that animal, that consumer or customer, has never been more anxious and more curious because of what they're living in and will have lived through. And with anxious curiosity comes a desire to change. Change what? Change how? Change how much? I think it's all up in the air, depending on, again, sector and product. And so I would suggest that business leaders first have this accountability to look at their business as a brand, not a name or a website. It's not about what you make, it's about the benefit you create for the market. And that benefit will change as a result of people being anxious and curious. They're looking for different things. So understand what those changes are that anxious curiosity has bred in your marketplace. Because if the world has shifted this way and you come back delivering the old normal, I'm not saying you'd be totally off the track, but you won't be 100% on the track.
No.
And that adjustment, I think, strategically and operationally is critical if you're going to grow value in the market. And that requires investing time, some money in understanding that marketplace. So that would be number one. And then number two would be, as a result of all of that, start looking at change as a good thing. Change for a lot of numbers-driven business leaders is cost. Here, it will be investment. Because of this change in the consumer, in the marketplace, we have to change. It's not a plus or a minus. We have to do it. So understand what that is and what you need to invest in to be able to deliver on that new brand promise that the anxious curiosity has created.
Well, David, this has been a true pleasure. I want to thank you today. We're kind of running out of time. Maybe I might invite you back for a monthly segment. Would you be interested in that, to come back?
Yeah, that'd be fun. I'd love to get some questions from your viewers as well.
Absolutely.
So we can be specific and help them.
And where can people find Level 5? Maybe you could help them out. So they would.
Well, easiest place is our website. So level5strategy.com.
Okay.
And happy to take any questions that come in there as well.
Great. So thank you very much, David. And for the next time, this is Brandon at What's Your Story?